Hello, one and all, and welcome back to RWBY Discussions, I guess. It's been so long, I don't entirely remember how to do my own intro. I am the Max Few Trades, and with me, as always, is my friend.
You're only mate, and don't worry, we are bad at intros.
We always will be, forever and always. We're finally back. RWBY is back, Volume 8, as a matter of fact. And wouldn't you know it, everything is going horribly wrong, as is to be expected for this universe at this point.
Yeah, kinda. Especially considering that the last volume ended with Salem has arrived.
With a giant whale.
Yep.
How do you, like, that's admittedly, that's how you make an entrance. On the back of a whale that can fly.
And do all sorts of stuff, apparently.
Yeah, it's a very weird whale. Well, it has landing platforms. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Anyway, honestly, it feels like it's been a really long time. I know it hasn't been really, but doesn't it feel like it's been a long time since we had RWBY content?
I think it's because, well, it might also be because, no RWBY Chibi, and no
That's true.
other stuff.
Yeah, the whole world's kind of caught on fire. That makes sense. But man, well, as much as I'd like to say, well, it sure is super great and swell to have this back, at the same time, I know that this volume is probably going to emotionally devastate me, at the very minimum. I don't know about you personally, but it sure seems like that's the direction we're going for.
We'll see what happens. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, you never know. There's some hope there, maybe.
And we do get some lighthearted moments this volume, which we will get to.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And as is the case, I've obviously got to talk about the first episode of the volume. It is Divide.
But first, we shall start at the end. Because that's where the intro is.
Oh, you want to talk about the intro first?
We usually do that.
Okay, fair enough. You'll have to forgive me. It's been a while.
You are forgiven. This time.
Okay. Yeah, this time, but only this time. All right, so in the grand scheme of intros, I think this one is really, really solid and well choreographed and everything, but also it has an unmistakable level of dread about it that I'm very uncomfortable with.
Yeah, although I will say I do like the seamless transition of Mantle, as it is when we last saw it, to on fire and Grim everywhere.
There are so many Grim that it's absolutely insane. Like I feel like it's almost almost a ridiculous amount personally, but it sells the whole idea very, very strongly. So I get it. Also, I want to point out, I don't know how much thought went into it or anything, but it's that scene that happens immediately after the title goes over, and it's like shots of the four main girls and their past selves reflected inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find it interesting how. Okay, so Ruby's cape is where you see her thing. Blake's sword and Yang's hair.
Mm-hmm.
But with Weiss, she doesn't really have anything for that. So it's just her younger self projected onto her own chest.
Well, I mean, Midden Aster is too thin. And
no, it is, and she doesn't have as much hair as Yang, I know.
Yeah.
It's just funny. It's just a funny juxtaposition, I feel. Although, I gotta be honest, I still really enjoy seeing their older selves in the newer animation style.
Oh, I do too.
Even if it's just momentarily, I just really liked that. And it's a really great shot.
Also, we get to see Zwei for the first time in how long?
Easily, at least minimum 3 volumes, I think.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Who knows if Zwei will ever be seen ever again in any context? We honestly can't say we know. And next, we have, we've got Ironwood, we've got the surviving members of the Aesops.
Oh, I pointed this out.
They're obviously going to play a role. Oh, yes, go ahead.
I pointed this out on another podcast, but you see a hand drop Clover's pin? Like, yeah, that's Clover's hand. Go frame by frame. As he lets go of it and it falls from his hand, the hand turns pale.
Oh my god, you're right. That's an attention to detail that is, quite frankly, not necessary.
That's exactly what I thought.
It's like, okay, wow, you really sold the thing and everything, but wow, that, like, you would have to really be paying attention to that, and it would only result in you feeling sad.
Unless you're me, in which case you're happy you noticed it.
Well, I mean, it is an interesting thing to notice. Also, I think a vaguely important thing to take note of is briefly when you see all of the Aesop members, you sort of get their sort of, I guess, current mental state on all of this.
Harriet is pissed.
Yeah, she is a really angry lady. And also Marrow seems phenomenally depressed.
I can't say I blame him too much.
No, he seems like probably the most morally upstanding member of the group. Yeah. I mean, he was the only one of the team, you know, when they were fighting RWBY that really didn't want to.
Well, he was also the only one who didn't want to kill them.
That's also a very big, that's a bit of a problem. Also, Crow's obviously going to be going through a lot, but apparently, it seems, you know, just through the smiles that we see between the two of them, it seems like he'll have a good relationship with Robin. So that would be good. It'd be nice if, you know, more positive, things happen. I'd personally like to see that. Yeah. Then we see Oscar obviously struggling, and Salem being the most boogeyman of all boogeymen. My goodness.
Who has wings now.
Yeah, she got wings now, because, you know, if she wasn't intimidating what with being incredibly powerful and immortal, now she can fly. I'm sure she could always do that if she wanted, but still.
But Jesus, this show is terrifying.
It legitimately is. Then we get shots of you know, Crescent Rose and Merton Astor, and Yang and Blake's weapons.
Gamble, Shroud, and Embasilica.
Thank you. Okay, I was about to get Blake's. I completely forgot Yang's, but I remembered Blake's. I just needed an extra second. Get them falling down. I'm sure that's not going to be ominous at all. Then we see, you know, Team, I guess, Junior at this point. I think this is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, John's all confident, but...
Yeah, John's feeling pretty good about things right now, and that's nice, because, you know, usually he's not usually one to really be all that sure of himself about anything, but he's doing pretty good. Yeah. Unfortunately, the symbology of the whole situation is kind of bad. I think you can pick up what it's implying here.
And then we got Ren and Nora.
I mean, yeah, then there's Ren and Nora, who, they sure are far away from each other, aren't they?
If there's any couple of characters I'm worried about, it's those two.
Well, there's a lot of problems for Ren and Nora, both in universe and out, because, well, obviously we already know that their relationship is already being kind of rocky, which is unfortunate because we were all pretty sure that they had a very solid foundation that wasn't going to get messed up that much. Turns out we were wrong. And on top of oh, you go ahead.
Aside from a different one, that was the one pairing that everybody universally shipped.
Yeah, basically, no matter what, yeah, everyone's like, yeah, well, obviously that one's good. I don't care, do that one. But then the writers are like, yeah, you know what? Let's maybe not have that be happy, because nothing is allowed to be happy.
Well,
also,
I mean,
as much as I hate,
if they make it through this, all the more satisfying.
That is true. I legitimately hope that is the case. Unfortunately, as many people have said, so, you know, countless times before in previous volumes, and is only continuing now, if anybody's expendable, it's one of them now, isn't it?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't like saying that, and I don't think it's going to happen. I personally don't, because I feel like, you know, when Pyrrha died, it was awful and tragic, and everyone got really sad, but there was a point to the story for why it happened, and, you know, the things that happened because she died, it all made sense, and it pushed the story in the direction it wanted to go, right?
Yeah.
I'm just not 100% sure if killing off Ren and or Nora, or both, if they're feeling especially sadistic, would really do much in the long run.
Is it messed up of me that I did think of a scenario where they could do both?
Yeah, no, I'm sure you have. I think everyone's had one in the back of their minds. It's just, I don't want to think about it. That's the thing.
Fair enough, I won't say it then.
Yeah, I'd prefer not. Look, if things start getting even more dire and we have to start speculating about that sort of thing, go absolutely crazy. But until then, let's try and pretend it's not going to be a thing.
Fair enough.
I'm totally cool with living in denial until proven otherwise.
Same.
Anyway, Ren and Aura, that's obviously going to be a thing. And then, okay, so obviously this is sort of my wheelhouse. Well, first of all, Winter seems to be getting an entirely new look, which is interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Looks really neat, though.
It looks more so like just a cast for her arm, and her hair's just pulled back in more of a ponytail.
That is true. Hang on, let me take one more quick look to see if I was overlooking anything here. And, wow, yeah, I guess the juxtaposition of the hair and the cast really made the whole thing look like it was much more different than it actually was. Huh.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, I still like the way her hair looks. Anyway, we get a pretty good a belief here that apparently the Schnee family is still going to be involved in it and all of this, which makes sense. We're still an Atlas and everything. Although the symbology of their family crest hitting the ground and shattering into a million pieces is slightly ominous, if I'm being honest. I get that their whole thing, is an ice motif and everything, but I fail to see how that isn't meant to be symbolic.
Oh boy, gonna be rough for the Schnees.
It is, mostly because here's my main prediction of things. We're definitely going to get Weiss versus Winter at some point during this, and it's going to be not as great as one might hope it would be.
I mean, best we can hope for is that at least, Weiss wins.
I would like to see that, yes. But here's the thing. I want Weiss to win and do awesome things and be successful and, and all that good stuff. But at the same time, Winter is or at least was the only aspect of her family that wasn't a complete and total trash fire.
Oh, yeah, true.
So the notion of them having to fight in any capacity is actually rather more uncomfortable than anything else for me.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's just my personal opinion. Oh, and speaking of symbology and everything, chessboards.
Yep. I don't get enough of
Ironwood. Ironwood not doing too good right now.
Yeah,
in many different ways. Yeah, that's true.
Damn you, Thanos.
And apparently, Watts is still going to be a thing. That's unfortunate, and also goes into a very large theory. I'm sure I'm not even close to the first person to think of, but we'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah, and the mirror behind Penny, cracking.
Yeah.
That doesn't help. Along with
there's stuff. There's a especially immediately after the Watts scene, there's a lot of things about Penny that I'm not looking too forward to, possibly. Alright, so we get more symbology and everything, but at the same time, it's interesting because I'm repeating myself, but it's interesting that the intro itself is showing these split up teams.
I mean, to be fair, the intro does happen after the episode, but you know how we do things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I'm just saying because in the end,
was going to happen.
Yeah, I know, but still, it's interesting because I guess that means the majority of this volume is going to have them split up in this particular arrangement. Which I just find very odd.
I want to say at least the first half.
At the least, okay, yeah, that probably makes more sense. And man, is it really weird to see Yang just inexplicably not with Team RWBY, but they've got Nora and Penny, so that's cool. Also, wow, Blake is tall.
Oh my god, yeah, I've just looked at... Yeah, compared to RWBY, Weiss, and Nora. She just... Yeah,
I mean, I get that none of them are especially tall women or anything, and Penny is currently flying, so she doesn't count, but Blake really is tall compared to them. That's really weird.
Well, I mean, the heights do technically go RWBY, Weiss, Blake, Yang.
Yes. But still, I guess it's just because Blake is still part of this subsect team, and she's with all of the shortest people possible, except for Oscar. Replace Penny and Oscar, and it's just Blake and her army of very tiny friends. Anyway, so we get some cool action shots. That's always good.
Yep.
Shout out to everybody doing some cool things.
I do want to point out...
really getting mileage out of that Lancer.
I do want to point out this split screen of Yang and RWBY. and they're like smiling and nodding to each other. So we know, like, yeah, things are still good, or at least will be good later.
I like to think will be good later. That's my personal desire, is that everything works out. But you know,
by the way,
got a bunch of cool action shots.
Sorry if my voice is a bit croaky.
Oh, it's okay. The man just woke up. It happens.
Yeah.
But after the cool action shots, everything gets all quiet and frozen, and Cinder walks by, and she's got the hurt hand.
Yeah, that thing's eating her.
Yeah, it really is. And we see all of the villains and the relics. RWBY continuously staring at how everything is going horribly wrong. Oh, and then then the ice breaks and they all fall through, and they don't look exactly. Yeah, they don't look so good. And then they're all pulled down by a bunch of Grim arms.
I did see someone say, like, when they're in the water, oh, this is Kingdom Hearts, right?
Okay, I was going to admittedly say that it kind of reminded me of that, but I thought it was too easy. But yeah, they all get pulled down by Grim arms, and we get a bunch of really sketchy things of happily ever after, never anymore. Like, basically everything kind of falls apart. We see Penny, at the very bare minimum, get very upset, and all of the main girl's weapons just falling down to the ground.
And then it ends with, admittedly, a beautiful shot of Crescent Rose with the moon in the background.
That very much is. I give that credit, but my goodness, is this intro not trying to make us all feel like, oh, horrible things are about to happen, aren't they?
To be fair, I was saying this off camera, I think that's to be expected from this volume.
Yeah, I guess. Honestly, it's so weird, because I go into every volume expecting everything to go horribly wrong, and to an extent, I haven't been wrong, but if this is the volume where things get bad, considering everything that's happened beforehand, that says a lot. That all being said, I suppose it's time to actually get into the episode proper.
Yep.
Alright, so I have a very, very simple question for you.
Okay.
This opening shot. Did you know who this was the instant you saw it?
Yeah, Cinder.
Okay, so that was just me who was completely lost. Okay, you know what? That's entirely on me. That's my bad. I legitimately did not know who this was. While we were watching her wash the floor, I was very confused, and it took a comment section for me to realize, oh wait, that's Cinder.
Okay, to be fair, I was questioning it a little bit, and then as soon as I asked, wait, is that Cinder? It cuts to Cinder scratching the chair, like, in the same rhythm as the scrubbing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and in retrospect, it's insanely obvious, and I feel stupid for not having realized it.
Because what did Cinderella do?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it now, but you have to forgive me. This is quite literally the first time any sort of parallel with Cinderella and Cinder made any sort of sense to me.
Aside from the glass
Up until now, I mean, I guess that sort of counts, but it always seemed really tenuous to me. Kind of like how, you know, Yang is based off Goldilocks, but that's really just kind of down with the hair.
We never see her eat porridge.
We never do. We have seen her punch a bear, but that happened way later.
We've also never heard her say, like, oh, this is just right.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, all of the, you know, inspirations for the characters and the fairy tales, you know, they're sort of based after, has always just sort of been kind of surface level stuff. That's actually probably the most direct reference to anything I've seen to this point. It's like, oh, no, here's Cinder, inspired by Cinderella, just straight up washing the floors.
I mean, aside from some of the Beauty and the Beast stuff with Blake.
Yeah, admittedly, but again, that was more open to interpretation, where that was more of a one-to-one, like, actual comparison you could make, I think.
True.
I'm just saying, in Beauty and the Beast never, you know, did anything that Adam ever did.
Well, actually, it was confirmed, though, Blake is meant to be both of them.
I know, but that's still confusing to me. I get it, though. I understand. It just, you need to think about it more, and sometimes my brain doesn't do that too good, and I just see pretty colors and just clap my hands, you know? It's like, oh, that was fun. Yay! What is all this symbology? I don't know.
Yeah, I just enjoy this stuff.
Yeah, basically. So, hey, it's Neo again. And then, yes, I do dare say I can hear the army of Neo fans screaming in the distance. They seem quite happy about this. She's on screen for barely a few moments, and that's all anybody ever wanted.
Yep, just wanted her around.
Yep, so Cinder and Neo are flying towards the gigantic dreadnought whale. Neo admittedly seems rather hesitant to do so, which is admittedly nice to see.
Yeah, and, yeah, she don't want to be here.
Yeah, well, to be fair, when we get a closer look at this giant honking whale... okay, well, first of all, we had a general idea of how big it could be when we saw it at the end of the last volume, but it's clearly even bigger than that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to... It's almost absurd. Like, the ship that Neo and Cinder are flying is so astronomically tiny compared to this thing that it's almost legitimately kind of disturbing in of itself. Like, nothing should be that big. And then, you know, we get closer shots of the giant whale, and it has landing platforms for ships.
Yeah,
Do you think... Like, do you think Cinder maybe custom made this whale as like a mobile, like a mobile HQ or something?
I mean, when you have a whale that massive that can fly, you might as well.
I was just wondering, did this giant whale thing exist prior, or did she create it for this purpose? Because it feels way too coincidental.
I'm gonna say she created it solely for invading Atlas.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case. And then I have to wonder why a whale. But you know what? I'm not going to question her. She's clearly a freak.
I mean, the whale is the largest mammal on Earth, so...
I mean, you're not wrong. It sends a very strong message. So I can't criticize her. It's working. People freaked out. So, as it turns out, Cinder has finally decided to return to her boss. And hopefully
queen,
maybe
apparently.
not die. Or her queen, as it were, because we got to use them chess metaphors, obviously. It's not the first or last time it'll happen. Shout out to Neo, legitimately just kind of looking around the inside of this whale and being legitimately kind of unsettled by the whole thing.
Yeah, I like that background detail.
Do you get the impression that Neo didn't really fully understand what she was getting into when she agreed to this?
Yeah, I'm thinking she just heard, oh, I get to murder Ruby and take revenge for Roman. Sign me up.
Yeah, even if you take the alternate interpretation of she's faking it so she can strike Cinder when she least expects it or something to that effect, it's still, even then, it's like, wow, I am involved in some things right now. Like, this is so much above my prior pay grade.
Yeah.
Because you gotta realize, Neo was the henchwoman to a henchman to a henchman of the main bad guy. She was so many rings down, it was almost absurd. So it was like, how much do you think of this? How much do you think Roman knew about all of this?
I would say nothing, because remember, Cinder said to him, you'll know what you need when you need to know.
Yeah, so basically, if Roman barely knew anything and he worked directly under Cinder, how much did Neo know? Practically nothing. So this all has to be very bizarre.
Yeah. Although, talking to Neo, I love when Cinder gives Salem the relic, saying, oh, I managed to take this from the general. And Neo, like, pouts and crosses her arms.
Well, yeah, obviously, because Cinder had absolutely nothing to do. She had nothing to do with that. Neo did pretty much everything there.
And then we get this guy.
I appear to be mixed up on where exactly in the episode you are. Oh, this guy, Tyrion. Yeah, because he's always got to be in the court. Has there ever been a scene that hasn't involving Tyrion that didn't start with him ominously walking out of the shadows?
I don't know.
At the very least, the majority, I think, at this point.
Yeah, and I gotta get this out of the way. I'm probably gonna be saying this a lot when we talk about Tyrion, but Josh is having way too much fun in this role.
He really is, but you know what? I appreciate that fact.
Yeah.
I want people to have fun.
Yeah, it's
also,
like,
I really want to just...
It's like
go ahead.
The Joker and Palpatine. Like, he's evil, and he loves being evil.
Yeah, I don't give a damn. I'm just gonna keep doing horrible things because it's fun.
Yeah, so for the voice actor, just go all out.
No, absolutely. No, I mean, no one's assuming or vying for a Tyrion face turn, you know? So why even?
No.
Exactly. So it's like, well, why even entertain the notion of pretending such a thing is the case? So let's just have fun with it, and they do. There's actually one question I wanted to quickly ask you.
What's that?
Pound for pound, has Neo accomplished more for this group than Cinder has at this point?
Well, there's also, how much, oh, hang on, let's see. Okay, so Cinder got the maiden powers.
She did, yes.
But
everything after that seemed to be kind of a slow burn, and pun not intended for that, but ever since she got defeated at Beacon, I mean, I say defeated, but she mostly got defeated in the sense that, her body got fried and everything.
Yeah. Oh, but also she hacked Ironwood's scroll to leave so that Watts could get the intel they needed.
Okay. I was just wondering because I was wondering how deep this Neo being offended by Cinder taking credit thing this really was going. It's like, and I was starting to wonder, wait a second, has Neo actually been more useful in the long term? I don't know. There could be somewhat of an argument. Anyway, so hey, look, it's Mercury and Emerald, and they actually have new clothes.
And Hazel.
And Hazel too, who is, I just realized when we were looking through the intro again, significantly more muscular than I anticipated.
He is jacked.
It is absolutely absurd.
Like, my god.
And, alright, so, really, with Emerald, there was really only one way this entire scene was gonna go when she showed up. Oh, look, it's Cinder. I'm super happy. Cinder, shut up, woman, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping this could lead into Emerald, realizing, oh, Cinder actually don't give a dang.
Well, you'd think, but at the same... I mean, maybe, possibly, I don't know. The fact of the matter is, it's like, this isn't the first time must have come to realize that the possibility of that exists. Hell, Mercury beat her up while spelling it out for her, and didn't really seem to really want to believe it.
There is actually some speculation I saw about, an idea.
Oh, yeah?
On how you could do, the Emerald turning good at the very least. Let's say we get Blake and Yang versus Emerald and Mercury. Yang mostly fighting Mercury and Blake taking on Emerald.
That makes sense.
And you could do, Emerald, casting illusions to trick Blake, but then she relies on a heightened, fullness hearing to get through him, so you could do, a come on Peter Tingle scene, which would be really cool.
Right. That actually would, I admit.
But considering the kind of relationship that Blake was in, and, I don't know, maybe that could assist Emerald in realizing
You're not wrong.
This ain't the best thing for me.
Yeah, you're actually not wrong. That it's not one-to-one by any stretch, but it is similar enough, I think, that there would actually be a bit of relatability there. The only thing is, they would Blake would have to become aware of that situation in order to be able to relate to it. So basically, she would need to bear witness to Cinder horribly mistreating Emerald, despite her devotion to her.
I mean, maybe
I'm not sure
happen before they fight.
It would kind of have to for that sort of idea to work, but if it did, you're right. That's actually probably the most sensible way to make it work. I'm interested in that. All right. And I mean, it's no joke. It's obviously no, shocking revelation to the theory community that if any of the bad guys turned actually full-on good guy, it would be Emerald out of any of them.
Yeah, Emerald is the most likely.
Yeah, and at best, I mean, some people will sometimes, throw out the idea of maybe Neo. I don't think Neo will ever become a full-time good guy, but I do potentially see her being like, well, this entire situation is insane. I don't want this. I'm a gray area, just aligning with you for the moment, sort of situation.
That's the best I see for Neo. Just,
yeah,
I'll make a temporary truce.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, obviously there's a much bigger problem here, and I don't want to be on the side that ends all of life forever. So there's a very clear line, and it's like, man, life was so much simpler when I was robbing trains. Like, my goodness. Anyway, enough of that. So Cinder is basically just trying to get back into Salem's good graces, and it quasi works.
Take how many maiden powers?
A lot of them at this point, if we're being honest.
2.
But yeah, okay. 2 is still a lot for a villain like Salem, okay?
Well,
there was a very real...
maidens, so...
Yeah, but still, she's still messed up a couple times, and you gotta wonder how many times you can actually mess up before Salem just decides, you know what, this whole entire thing is pointless. You're useless to me, I'm done with this. So, that's the sort of thing. But either way, being able to deliver the relic did seem to smooth things over enough.
Yeah, and, she's not dead, so she still has the Full Maiden.
So, there you go. It's something. Take what victories you can.
Yeah.
Although, Salem does have this really interesting, sort of spiel about this. I mean, a spiel implies that it's not as good as it was, but I actually liked the way she goes about it. Like, just because you have more value than a pawn,
it doesn't make you a player.
Exactly. It's like you're not a completely, an expendable drone that's completely worthless, but you're still not that important, so stop talking out of line. That sort of thing. So, I mean, that has a lot of implications.
Yeah.
And I feel like I mean, it was always sort of based off this, but I do have to wonder just how much of Salem's control over Cinder comes purely from fear. Because some of it has to, obviously.
Yeah, I want to say most of it.
Because at the same time, you hear things, and that brief thing at the beginning of Cinder scrubbing the floors and everything, I believe that the idea here is sort of that Salem fills the role of the fairy godmother, but an extraordinarily dark and twisted version of it.
Yeah. Instead of...
So I'm left wondering how much...
Prince Charming, it's... Nah, here's the tools to become a psycho murder lady.
Essentially, yeah. It's a dark subversion of that story, I feel is a good way of going about it. Plus, I mean, technically the ultimate evil of the series being a fairy godmother, considering how ubiquitous that is with fairy tales, makes a lot of sense.
That does, actually, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, obviously... Salem did help Cinder out from whatever situation it was she was in. I'm sure, I don't know if it'll be this volume, but the intro to it definitely makes it seem like we might learn more about why Cinder is so devoted as she is. But I just want to know how much of it, it's a give and take. Like, how much of this is legitimate, I want to side with her because her ideas are good and I want that to be the case, and how much of it is, I don't want to die, so I'm going to do what she tells me to do.
Well, I guess we'll hopefully find out throughout this volume.
That's the hope.
Like, if the first shot is anything to go by.
Yeah, indeed. So...
Actually, you know what?
Salem...
The last time...
Oh, go ahead.
The last time we did something like that was Volume 4. Like, because they started showing off Oscar with, like, no context, and we're just like, who the hell is this?
You're right. We've had Oscar around for so long, I completely forgot that that's how we were introduced to him. Just random shots of some guy.
Yeah, just random shots of some farm boy.
I was like, all right. And then it cuts back to the actual episode, and everyone just wonders, what the hell was that about? It's a very interesting thing RWBY seems to enjoy doing. Anyway, seems like Salem is basically ready for the next step of her plan, which apparently really does just kind of boil down to, man, I sure do need to, at the very minimum, kidnap Oscar. It seems like that's a lot of what she's doing seems to be based purely off the fact that, oh, wait, no, I know this guy. I got some loose ends to tie up with that guy.
Well, and we'll get the other reason she's kidnapping Oscar specifically.
Yeah, exactly. That being said, we have cut to Shantytown. And I never actually spent that much time looking at all of the various faunus. It's always so interesting to see the NPCs, or I say NPCs, but basically background characters.
Yeah.
In faunus areas, because you always see these very specific character designs that you're like, well, obviously they would never have a main character look like that, but for a background character, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know why, but for some reason, like, Blake's cat ears, I don't know, maybe it's just some sort of I'm used to cat girls in media thing or something, but it feels like that's not weird, whereas, like, the guy with freaking ram horns just seems silly almost somehow.
I get that. Maybe we need more ram horn representation in media.
Perhaps so. I mean, then again, you'd have a hard time getting through doors.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, Oscar.
If you like that thing in Johnny Cage versus Captain Falcon, they do that thing with Black Shadow.
Yeah, you're right. Just thunk, thunk. Like, sometimes you gotta realize, not all faunus traits are created equally, and for every adorable, tail you get, sometimes I imagine at least one person out there has got to be stuck with like a lizard tongue. Like, and that's just unfortunate in general.
To be fair though, you could probably use that as a decent parlor trick.
Yes, perhaps, like, but still,
that's way away from a bowl of popcorn and just be like, hey, watch this.
It's like, I'm disgusted. Please don't do that again.
Sorry.
Unless you want a
weird
weird
Yoshi impression.
Yeah, fair enough. Also, I guess the ultimate crux of that is, I freaking love this old man who hands Oscar soup, because Oscar's in the the slums right now, basically just kind of waiting for somebody to find him. Mm-hmm. And it's this old man who just straight up has bare hands.
Actually, those are mole hands.
Mole hands. That makes even more sense because of the glasses.
When I first saw him, I thought bare hands too.
Okay, no, yours makes way more sense. This guy looks more like a mole than he does a bear. Yeah. But the point is, think about how impractical and hard life has to be when you've got hands that look like that. It's like, the majority of your fingers are your fingernails. How, like, the world isn't designed for you. How do you live?
That's gotta be a nightmare.
I mean, faunus rights is a problem in of itself. Let alone, having to learn to live with whatever animal trait you seem to have randomly genetically been given.
Well, we say that. Like, how old is this guy? He might be used to it by now.
I mean, true. I mean, he looks to be elderly. I'm going to say somewhere in his 60s, but still.
Also, I want to shout out to that Kaito Dan for this. Please let that guy's name be Hans. Or Hans.
That would be such a great name. Wow, okay, it's on the nose, but it's on the nose in the best possible way. Anyway, so an Atlas ship drives by. Oscar's obviously wary of that, but good news, it's friggin' RWBY. Yep. All is well. So they managed to pick him up, and that's good. And we basically get the lowdown of everything that's going on. I'll be perfectly honest, when the previous volume ended, I assumed this one was going to begin with them and their ship getting eaten by the giant whale. I really did. Because it fits with the Pinocchio thing with Penny. At some point, they're going to get swallowed by a whale. I don't know when. It just didn't happen yet. That being said, obviously everything is in pretty bad shape, all things considered. I feel like that's a bit of an understatement.
Yeah.
But Weiss is obviously taking this a little hard.
Yeah, I was about to say, but hey, you get to see Weiss.
I do like Weiss, yes, but I don't like seeing her sad.
Yeah.
And no matter what kind of negative memories might be associated with it, this was still in fact her home for a very large period of time, and now it's being completely and utterly destroyed and ransacked. By horrifying demon monsters.
Yep,
I swear.
And then we get Joanna Greenleaf flagging down the ship and Maria being like, yeah, I see you.
Yeah, I'm so glad I have you to remember the names of all the characters. Because some of these characters, I try my best to remember all of them, but some of them don't actually have their names officially stated in the actual episodes enough for me to remember. And you have to go like through supplementary material or things like that, and it's hard for me to remember that stuff.
As messed up as this sounds, doing all those best butt polls actually helped.
That is incredibly bizarre.
Yeah.
In case you weren't aware, he made a lot of Twitter polls about who has the best butt out of everyone in the series.
The overall winner was Blake.
Yeah, and to the shock and awe of literally nobody on the face of the earth. Anyway, enough talk about butts. I think everyone's in the hideout now, and everyone's basically getting caught up on all the pieces of information we have. They don't actually seem to really know where Robin is, which is... it's got to be a bit of a concern for them, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm basically watching this as it goes by, Same. And I just remembered the scene, and it's getting where Nora very calmly walks over and hugs Oscar.
Yeah, that scene was really cute, especially Oscar being like, "Oh God, she's gonna do that again," and just panicking.
It's like, oh wait, no. It's like, oh wait, no, this is actually really nice. Never mind. We don't get a lot of jokes in this series, at least not lately anyway. So it's nice to see anything that might be seen as some levity.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of talking here. Why don't you pick it up on the play-by-play here?
Okay, so we get Blake saying, "Oh, we were worried about you when we heard you were going off that Ironwood on your own." Yeah, that didn't end well for him, did it?
No, it really didn't. Realistically, he should have died.
Yeah. And speaking of, someone pointed this out. You know that wanted poster?
Yeah.
Oscar's still on it.
That is true, he is.
So does Ironwood know that he's still alive?
Unless it hasn't been updated yet, maybe?
Although I made this joke on another podcast, could you imagine if when he landed, Oscar just pulls out a scroll and texts Ironwood, "I lived"?
I mean, that would be a hell of a power move, let's be real. Anyway, so obviously things aren't going too well. If Ozpin chimes in and is like, "So, hey, you gonna tell them I'm back?" And he's like, "No, I'd really rather not get into that right now."
And you and I aren't done talking, mister.
I mean, basically, I'd be kind of miffed too. Just up and vanished? Why would you do that?
Also, Oscar being like...
I mean, I know why he did that.
Also, Oscar being like, "You and I aren't done." Please, let Oscar be the dominant personality.
I mean, I feel like he's earned it at this point.
Yeah. But then we get some sad stuff when Oscar asks, "Hey, where's Crow?"
We don't know.
Yeah. By the way, very subtle background detail.
Yeah.
It cuts to Ren, Blake, Yang, and Jean after he says that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody glances at Yang before she puts her head down.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, that must be... Yeah, okay, I understand why.
Because, that is her uncle.
It is, right. So that would make a lot of sense. There's a lot of subtle animation quirks that go on in these episodes now that the old volumes were never able to do.
Yeah.
You can actually rewatch these episodes a lot and see things you didn't notice before and catch the intended meaning behind them. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting, actually.
I love that about RWBY, and God, props to RWBY for putting this extra detail in.
No, yeah, absolutely. They get a lot of... I don't want to talk about, the negative aspects of things all the damn time, but I mean, they get a lot of crap, I feel, and I feel like a lot of it is unjustified, personally.
Yeah, same.
I can understand some of the complaints here and there. There has been an adjustment period and everything, and things aren't exactly as they were back in the old days, but I don't necessarily think all of it is always 100% bad. You need to kind of take the whole picture into account,
Yeah.
So, the crew gets basically apprised to what they do know and how we really kind of need to evacuate people, and nobody else is really even attempting to do it, so we kind of need to figure something out about that.
Joanna has this plan. They're gonna evacuate everyone to the crater.
Yeah, I guess that's as good an idea as pretty much anything. Well, by her own words, it's not safe, but it's warm, and that's a step in the right direction, at least.
Yeah. So it's either out in the city that's being invaded by Grimm, and you'll likely freeze to death, or in a warm cave.
I mean, it's not perfect, but you really do have to take what you can get.
Yeah.
And it's essentially, basically the whole thing kind of boils down to pretty much make your decision and stick to it, because we really can't afford to flip-flop on these things right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, and things kind of fall apart a little bit, as Yang apparently has actually some alternate viewpoints on these things.
There's a Weiss line I want to comment on quickly.
Okay, please do.
We're never going to sleep again, I just know it. Weiss, how do you think the people that make your show feel sometimes?
Admittedly, yeah.
Especially
at the same time,
volumes.
At the same time, I feel like it says a lot about the current situation, where the highest source of levity, at least so far for me personally, has like somebody. Weiss is the only person to actually actively attempt to make a joke.
In this first episode, at least, we'll get to that.
In this first episode alone, as part of, the reintroduction, it's a new season, everything's starting up, everything's getting warmed back up and everything, and it's Weiss who's the one who's trying to be the source of levity.
Mm-hmm.
That must really go to explain just how uncomfortable this whole situation feels for everyone involved, that she's even trying.
Yeah.
So basically, ultimately, everyone decides... Well, they have a bit of an argument about it and everything, about what specifically they need to do, whether it comes to purely evacuations or getting Amity Tower up so, communications can happen again.
Yeah, which, both are very, very important.
They are, admittedly, and they don't want to split up, but they feel like that's... I mean, John basically comes to conclusions like, well... Obviously, man, on top of everything else, tensions are high, so maybe just splitting up into two groups and trying to get both done is the best course of action.
Yeah, that is the best course of action.
I actually do too, because I don't know if I could really realistically say one of these missions is more important than the other, by far. Because I'd say both need to happen. You just kind of gotta try and do your best.
Yeah.
So, huge props to John there.
Yeah. John using that brain.
He's really coming into his own.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah. Although I do find it interesting, ultimately, the way that the teams are broken up. I find it interesting. Did you at all find it odd that, there's got to be a part of you that finds it odd that Blake and Yang are on separate teams for this whole situation, right?
Okay, this is coming from me.
Yeah.
I'm actually cool with it.
You are?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm surprised to actually hear that.
Don't get me wrong, I would let's say, a cute scene between the two of them, but, with everything that's going on, it's not necessary, and also,
it would be a bit...
different viewpoint. Yeah, I'm not against it.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool. I'm okay with it because as much as I do like, the characters being, a cohesive team and, properly working together and everything, I do like that sometimes the characters can split off and still do their own thing and be their own characters still, instead of, being a duo.
Yeah, or just, blindly saying what RWBY thinks is best.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, because it's obvious Yang doesn't want to not trust RWBY or her leadership or her actions or anything. But at the same time, you still have to look at things practically. So I get where she's coming from. I personally do think I would side with RWBY in this particular instance, but I get where Yang is coming from, where she's like, your last couple ideas really did not pan out as well as we were led to believe they would.
Yeah, so... Yeah, she's got a point.
She has a point. She does. She does. Although ultimately, RWBY is still just doing literally the best she possibly can in an extraordinarily, finicky and dangerous situation. She's doing her best. Come on.
Yeah.
She's a leader, but she still hasn't been really doing this exact sort of thing on this level for very long. Of course, not everything she comes up with is going to be a complete and total home run.
Although she does have the idea of still getting Amity in the air by getting to Ironwood's terminal.
Yeah,
because that's the only way to launch it.
Yeah, no, it's a good plan. It's like, well, we can't go back there, so let's just find the alternate exit.
Yeah, which thanks to Pietro, we now know where that is.
It's exactly, and that's... Yeah, it's getting to it, that's going to be a bit of a problem, but you know...
We'll get to that.
When's that ever stopped Ruby from attempting to do what she thinks is right?
Yeah. Like, she'll come up with some crazy plan.
You were gonna... Yeah, and you know what? At the very least, her plans are usually end up being at least half successful at minimum. So, I feel like we got some pretty good odds here.
Yeah. And, oh yeah, another reason I'm totally cool with Blake and Yang splitting up for this is just like with what RWBY is doing, it's more like a stealth-oriented thing.
You're actually right. So
Blake being around for that is probably the best course of action.
And it's interesting, actually, that you would say that, because that does make sense. A lot of the characters on RWBY's side would be the ones that are more stealth-based, and the ones on Yang's side are more action-based, except for the very obvious thing of Ren and Nora. It feels like they should be on the opposite ends. Because Ren is definitely more of an espionage guy, and Nora's definitely more of the combat character.
Yeah, but
their ideologies are basically forcing them to go into a different direction. I find that to be really interesting, actually.
Yeah, although, you know, I'll get to that when we do the second episode.
Ah, okay, fair enough. We're actually recording this a fair bit on the day the second episode of the volume came out, because life be complicated and sometimes making time can be difficult, but I'm doing my best.
Hey, last volume, it was me.
True. So you know what? It all just kind of balances out in the end.
As all things should be.
Thanks for that, Thanos. Anyway, so
it's a few great lines.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a very quotable man. Anyway,
he's dead now.
So luckily, Pietro was apparently working on a bunch of stuff for the team before everything completely went belly up. And I mean, if you saw the preview, you know at least one of those things, and we'll talk about that when it shows up. But basically, that's ultimately where Yang is immediately going to first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It absolutely does, I think. But really, ultimately, this entire giant chunk of the scene is differing ideologies and thinking about what might be the best course of action in any given moment. I always found these sort of things really interesting because there's never really a right answer about these sort of things sometimes, you know?
No, there isn't.
So, like, you see one side and you get their point, you see the other side and you get their point, and it's more so, well, you personally, what do you think is more so the case than the other one, really?
I will say, though...
It's not black and white.
I will say, I don't agree with Penny's idea.
No, Penny's idea is definitely a bad one. She's just like, hey, so what if I just gave up?
What if I just give the relic to Salem and ask her to stop?
Well, Penny, points for creativity, but I'm gonna go ahead and say no.
Yeah, because one, there's no way she would do that. And two, if you take the staff, Atlas is going to fall on Mantle and kill everybody.
Basically. And on top of everything else, I mean, not only is Salem not going to stop when she gets the relic, she'll also probably just kill you instantaneously, let's be real.
And bye-bye Winter Maiden vows.
Exactly, and we don't want those going anywhere else right now.
Although at the very least, if they had to go to another place, let it be another good guy.
Yeah, that would be nice, but if Penny flew up there, it would only possibly end up in the worst possible location.
Yeah.
Because it's just a room full of villains. Worst case scenario. No thanks.
I mean, best case scenario for that, she closes her eyes and just tries to think of someone.
I get you. So, basically, the ultimate question is, okay, so we've got to kind of get up to that location where this terminal is, and that's kind of difficult when you consider literally, the entire city is not only swamped with Grimm, but also murder bots.
But fear not. Weiss has a plan.
Fear not. Yes, it is her who knows what is up, and that is great, and we'll learn more about that later, but still, I just appreciate the fact that it is Weiss. She's being proactive and getting stuff done, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, and you know what? That's another perfect reason why Weiss is with RWBY, because she
exactly
has to know how to get up there.
She does. No, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, also, as we comment on this,
go ahead.
When Yang says she's going out there, we cut to this worried-looking shot of Blake. It looks really cute.
Okay. Gotta make sure to get those moments in. I know, gotta get moments in there. That's okay. I wanted to just make a really bad joke, basically, because, you know, I thought Weiss was with Ruby because she has a long-established history of being able to sneak around. So, I mean, we know she's really sneaky, so she's obviously good for stealth missions.
I mean, she did sneak out of her own house.
Exactly. Anyway, getting to more serious matters, Penny's scroll goes off, and it's Ironwood, and that's a big problem.
Oh, you're way ahead of me. I'm just letting the episode play out.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I was jumping ahead slightly. Because ultimately, I mean, the entire scene, it's really just kind of trying to get this one major point said and done, basically. Like, people are confused, not entirely sure which side to go with. Ideologies are being conflicting. And I'm really legitimately getting kind of... I'm not going to say tired because that implies I'm disliking the way the show is going, but it's just I wish that the characters could all just uniformly get along, agree, and like, hey, we're united, let's do a thing.
Yeah, like we have different ideas, but we're you know, dividing and conquering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing.
Also, by the way, I love the way that Blake comforts Ruby, just like, hey, we're still united, okay?
No, absolutely no. Huge props to Blake, and also, obviously, I can't stress this enough. Always good to have Blake and Ruby interact with each other. Gotta get that ratio at least slightly better, you know?
Especially with what I want to happen.
What do you want to have happen? That's a very ominous statement.
You know, with Blake and Yang.
Oh, I get it now. Okay, sorry. Somehow that flew right over my head. All right, so are you at the call now?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So Ironwood, it's like, hey, Penny, I'm super duper ultra worried about you, and you know what? You should really probably come back now.
Penny, come back.
Yeah. That is the most random reference you could have made.
It was the first thing that came to my head. I don't know why.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, Ruby is pretty convinced that no, we're not doing that. We're going to go with our idea. And Ironwood is very clearly flying further and further off the handle in ways that I was not actually prepared for.
Yeah, he's a... Look, Remnant is doomed.
Like, seriously, everything is screwed. Everything is going terribly. We kind of just need to give up on certain things and hope that maybe just possibly we can sort of make some other things work.
Yeah. I will say, I got a comment on his plan.
Like, I'd love to hear it.
His plan is to use the stuff of creation to launch Atlas high into the atmosphere so they'll be away from Salem, okay?
Yes.
What then?
I do not believe he has thought that far ahead.
Yeah, because they're just going to cut off all their supplies by doing that.
Exactly. Like, there's only so much they can only last so long.
Yeah, so it's
and eventually, if you leave Salem to what she's doing, she's just going to destroy literally everything everywhere. There won't be anything left.
Yeah, and then by the time she's done, it's just like, okay, the only thing I've left is the stuff of creation. They're way high up there. I just need to make something that will get there eventually. And get through all the corpses, because everyone will either starve to death or die of thirst.
Either way, you're gonna run out of supplies really damn quickly. It seems like a very short-term solution. At best, he's buying himself time, but it's pretty clear from everything else we've seen that really, I don't really think any amount of extra time is going to be able to help. Like, as insane as some of RWBY's ideas ultimately are, it's basically, well, we could either go out there and do what we can, try our best, and maybe it won't work, but you know what, at least we'd be trying, as opposed to Ironwood's, I'd very much like to just kind of try and bide my time even more, long after the time for waiting and planning has kind of flown out the window.
Yeah. The sad part is we're not going to be able to convince him to go with something else because once Ironwood's made his mind up, yeah, there's no convincing him otherwise.
Yeah, like, I'm sure, you know, the most obvious thing in the world is, because we all remember Lionheart and how freakishly cowardly he was. And now we've got the Tin Man with absolutely, like, you know, having lost his heart and basically just kind of becoming unfeeling about this whole situation.
Yeah.
So, the only question is...
what's going to happen
I do have to wonder... yeah, I was thinking about Crow. Is Crow going to lose his mind?
Oh boy.
Like, I sincerely hope not.
Me too.
Yeah, well, anyway. So, hey, look, it's the Aesops. I bet they're doing something fun and not disturbing at all. Oh, wait, that's a corpse.
Also, when Maro had his eyes closed, it looked like tears were just trying to squeak their way out.
Just a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
Despite these guys not being friends, I mean, obviously there had to be sort of something there, at least a little tiny bit.
Yeah, they had to at least mourn their leader.
Yeah. Also, shout out to the comments section, who, I don't know if you don't go there, but I can't help but remember when I went to the comment section for this episode, a lot of the people were like, oh my god, I can't believe it, they had Clover live.
What?
Yeah, people seem to think that this scene was evidence that he survived?
Oh my, I'm sorry for laughing, but...
no, guys. It's clearly this is clearly a morgue situation.
Yeah, and like last volume, you saw how big that blade that stabbed him through the chest was.
Yeah. Even with instantaneous medical attention, that's not likely.
Yeah, and he died way before anyone got there.
Exactly.
Also, if you look at his body here, it's significantly more pale.
Yeah, no, that is a corpse. That is a corpse.
Yeah, he dead.
Yeah, he did. I guess because people were like, oh, well, why is he in a patient room, and why are they all looking at him? It's like,
they're mourning.
I don't know. I mean, a framing device, and it makes the whole thing more cohesive and stuff. But at the same time, like, that is a corpse, people. Clover is dead. I assure you, he's not alive.
Yeah, unfortunately.
If literally nothing else, his voice actor confirmed that.
That too.
So, I mean, at the end of the volume, it was like, man, sure was nice playing that character, but he's gone now, so...
Yeah, and he knew of Clover's fate, like, as soon as he got the part.
I would assume so. It'd be kind of rude to not tell the voice actor what their character's ultimately going to end up having happen to them.
Just like how Jem Brown was the only one who knew about Pura.
Yeah. Man, that is a really depressing secret to have kept.
I'm not joking. The voices of Team RWBY never knew.
That is actually insane.
And also, Barbara was the only one who knew that Yang was going to lose her arm.
Yeah, so basically...
from the beginning.
Yeah, right. So, like, the stuff that was always planned to happen. Generally, it was only the actor who plays the specific character who has any idea that those things are going to happen to said character.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Also, hey, you know, on Not Dead news, here's Winter.
Yeah.
She's looking better. She's, in a lot of pain, obviously, but, you know.
She'll get there.
She'll get there. She's getting better. She's getting better. And, Ironwood shoos everybody else out of the room. Is like, so, hey, what are we gonna do? And, I mean, I'm sure he says it in a lot more eloquent and more, you know, substantial way that makes more sense. But ultimately, Ironwood's plan goes to, yeah, so I'm basically just going to do whatever I think might possibly make things work out, and I don't really care what anybody says or thinks about it.
Well, also saying he doesn't know what he would do without Winter.
Yeah. I mean, so that's a good sign, minimally, at the very least. For somebody who seems to be increasingly distrustful of quite literally everybody and everything, he does seem to still have faith in Winter, which is good. Of course, that also implies that maybe Winter might not stay by him. I mean, you might not think that that's something that would ever actually possibly happen, but then the next scene happens, and,
oh boy.
So, hey, you remember those council people from, you know, the previous volume? They were kind of neat.
And Councilman Chad, who was the best of all of them.
He very much was. So they come storming into the hospital, and they're obviously a bit miffed about everything that's going on because everything is absolutely insane. Ironwood is making a lot of crazy pants decisions. Why is he doing this?
I'm just going to quickly throw this out there. If people in the comments don't know why we're calling this guy Councilman Chad, shame on you.
Yeah, figure it out for yourself.
Us.
Yeah, that's just the facts.
Yeah.
But obviously they very much want answers to everything, but Ironwood doesn't seem to have any interest in giving them any, and he shoots Councilman Chad in the head.
Yeah, and
we don't see it, but that's clearly what happens.
Well, we're starting this volume off very depressingly.
Oh yeah, no, just cold-blooded murder.
And it had to be Councilman Chad of all people.
Of course it did.
A moment of silence.
Yes, may he rest in peace. Mm-hmm. And obviously, pretty much all of the characters around the area who bore witness to that were like, did we just see that?
I also can't help but notice, like, I mentioned this in another video. Look at Vine when that happens.
He doesn't even really move much.
Yeah, like, Elm and Marrow, like, yeah, they show some reaction, but he's just like, guy getting shot in the face.
Well, you know, I mean, I get that his thing is being zen and everything, but that seems a little excessive.
Yeah, like, dude. Well, I mean, it's not very clear, and you know, with
no.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's just
that's how we're learning.
We're learning he does reel back slightly, so there is some reaction there, but yeah, wow. So I guess we'll see how Winter and the Aesops ultimately decide to go about all of their decisions later in the volume, but I feel like that's going to make somebody think something, you know?
Yeah, probably Marrow most likely.
Well, yeah, Marrow more than most likely, but I don't know. I'm just feeling like, unless things get absolutely tragic, I feel like Winter has to ultimately defect, doesn't she?
Oh, here's hoping.
Yeah, that's me. Here's the thing. She ends up fighting Weiss. One of two things is going to end up happening. Either Winter ultimately decides to finally break free of all of this and how insane it all is, or Weiss is forced to at least defeat her, and it could ultimately lead to significantly worse things, and I don't want to think about that specifically.
God. Nor do I.
Yeah. So,
and I'm also going to throw this out there. I don't want that kind of fate for Winter, because...
No, I really don't either.
Well, yeah, because one, I like Winter, but also, she's voiced by Elizabeth Maxwell. And Elizabeth Maxwell is great.
That is true. This is undeniable.
Like, do you know how bummed out I was when I found out her character in Attack on Titan died?
Spoilers.
Oh, come on. The season's been out for ages. It's been in the thing in the manga for longer.
I'm just saying.
Like, it's been years.
I know, but you'd never know. My goodness. Anyway, and the last shot we really get is of Salem continuing to do her incredibly spooky, ominous deal.
Yeah,
and basically commanding a very specific Grimm to do a very specific thing. And I'm sure this very specific Grimm is definitely not going to be the part of an incredibly large bombshell in the next episode at all.
Oh, absolutely not.
No, clearly not. That's totally a red herring. And with that, it's just the intro as you're meant to see it for the first time.
But that's not how we do things, because the intro goes at the beginning.
It does. I understand why they put it at the end of the first episode of the first season. I get that. But
yeah,
still.
I do too. So.
It's like it's symbolic.
Yeah.
Anyway, also, that is Volume 8, Episode 1, Divide. It's an episode that basically really just wants to set a lot of things up for the rest of the volume, I feel.
Yeah, which I'm totally cool with.
Right, so like not technically not a lot is actually done. We're just sort of reaffirming where everybody is, what their immediate plans are.
And setting the overall tone of the volume.
Yeah, that's basically what the entire first episode is about, and in that aspect, I think it does a very good job.
Yeah.
So, to the people who are like, why wasn't there any action? It's like, well, because there wasn't really time for that, we kind of need to establish things first.
Yeah, like, spoiler alert, this show isn't all action, no plot.
We're trying to tell a story here, people. You'll get your cool action set pieces later, I promise.
I mean, it's RWBY. There's going to be an action set piece.
Obviously, at least a good few. So, obviously, I'm looking forward to those. But still.
Oh yeah.
Ultimately, I think this is a pretty strong start, all things considered.
Me too.
And it makes me feel, unbelievable dread and ominous feelings that I certainly hope don't lead to horrible things. But I guess we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
Pray for your favorite characters, people.
Be sure to do that.
I only feel confident about I only feel confident about RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Yang ultimately being completely safe. I don't feel confident about literally anybody else.
You say that, I just reached for that gamble shroud you got me.
Aw.
I'm just holding it.
Yes. Just hold on to it dearly. Let its good aura just sort of spread throughout you and make you feel better. It's all you can really do. Because we are in for a massively bumpy ride, people. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse.
Yeah.
But aside from all that, is there anything else you wanted to say before we close things out?
Not much that I'd want to say, on the recording.
Right.
Just solid first episode. And looking forward to recording a discussion about episode 2.
Yep, and all the ones that follow.
Yep.
And hopefully I'll be able to get them out on a better time schedule.
Or if it's me doing it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. The point is, we're going to make it work.
Yeah.
All right, then. Well, then I certainly hope you guys enjoyed the return of our weird little rambling, sort of vague podcast play-by-play thing that we do for some reason. And that you'll join us for the next one. All right, then. So if that's all there is to be said, I hope to see you all in the next one. Later.
Bye.